Thank you, Dr. Cole. Next one, please.
Hi, Madam Chair and committee members, my name is Kathleen Rossi, Kathleen. I'm a Nevadan registered nurse who has worked in critical care, and I've taken care of hundreds of dying patients over my 36-year career. I am currently caring for my sister who is dying of a brain tumor. 14 years ago, Peggy was given 18 months to live. Yet another millionth example of doctors getting prognosis of time left wrong. Indeed, if she had utilized assisted suicide 14 years ago, her death certificate would have read cause of death, brain tumor, which shows the deception that is built into these assisted suicide laws and their claims of accurate data collection. Her survival directly affects future prognostics for others with the same diagnosis. She was able to raise a small boy in that time. And I take issue with the proponents saying that these people do not use these drugs until they're in the last stages. There's been several cases where people have taken these drugs when they had months or years to live. These laws are based on the desire for patient autonomy, which granted is a high medical priority, but it is never the only one. Laws should be based on the common good and the effects of the whole of society. Historically, we know that there was a strong push for assisted suicide and euthanasia in the United States in the 1920s and 30s. It was only after the Nazi Germany euthanasia programs were discovered that some of that momentum wore off. But here we are again, as the Hemlock Society has changed its name to Compassion and Choices, counting on the fact that most Americans have short memories and will not see the connection between a physician writing a prescription for death now and the slippery slope to euthanasia. Euthanasia being where the doctor gives you the medication, you don't self-administer. Contrary to what proponents tell you, there are many reported abuses of these laws, and yes, they do escalate. As recently as March, the Colorado Sun reported a 36-year-old anorexic receiving assisted suicide in direct violation of that law that stipulates it should not be used for mental illness. Compassion and Choices even states this on their website. Canada passed physician-assisted suicide in 2016, similar to the law you're considering today. It expanded it in 2021 for the non-terminal, and again last month for the mentally ill, causing many Canadians to have second thoughts about what they have agreed to. Because logically, any argument you make for suffering at end of life, you can make for non-terminal diseases and for mental illness, which is suffering maybe of a worse kind. The Netherlands just last week expanded it for children. So what I find very disingenuous from Compassion and Choices is that these safeguards that they claim are in the bill, well, we see in other states, they come back later introducing bills to remove the very safeguards, claiming they are now barriers to access. Assemblyman Gonzalez, you asked about the data collection, and I can't refute the proponents in 2 minutes about abuses, but I will tell you who can. That's disability rights groups that document these abuses. I will submit to the committee all of their studies that have shown this. Basically, the physician in Vegas mentioned that there isn't an independent agency overseeing this. It's basically the doctors who are giving assisted suicide who collect their own data. I'm quoting the Oregon Department of Human Services, Dr. Katrina Hedberg, who says, "We are not given the resources to investigate assisted suicide cases. And not only do we not have the resources to do it, we don't have any legal authority to insert ourselves." Other problems with this bill, it perpetuates falsehoods. It asks doctors to lie about the cause of death. And in a really weird Orwellian manner, it specifies that the term physician-assisted suicide or assisted suicide or mercy killing can never be used, as if by calling this another name, it doesn't make it the same thing. There's no conscious rights at all in here. The doctors must refer or transition. I'm not even sure what that term means. There's a lack of an examination requirement. It requires that a patient be diagnosed with a terminal condition, but there's no requirement that the attending and consulting practitioners actually examine the patient in person or otherwise. What we see in other states is that basically there are a few docs here and there that people search out who are known to be the assisted suicide docs, not the treating physician who has a relationship with the patient. There's no requirement to evaluate for depression, and there's no requirement that the physician be there. all we see is this mental capacity term, which I think could be interpreted in several different ways.